Okay, Bismillah. So guys, let's quickly get into this video. 3 reasons I believe atheism makes no sense. Now before we get started, obviously you guys can see that there's a lot of mess behind me. We have a dustbin, chairs, boxes. It's a tip, but I wanted that look because I think it gives it a bit more of an informal feel, and I just wanted to give that flavor to this video because it's more of a conversation, and I want to continue this conversation in the comments below and get your thoughts on the points that I mentioned. I think it's very important to do that because instead of just have a type of monologue, which unfortunately we're restricted to in a way on YouTube. Or another thing you can say as well, you know, it's just laziness that you're trying to cover up and you didn't want to clean. Either way, let's get into the video. Number 1, the reason atheism makes no sense is because if you adopt the type of atheism which is based on philosophical naturalism, which is the idea that everything is a result of physical processes, it's all physical and everything can be accounted for via physical means, then you run into a lot of problems. And the first problem is, if you go right down to the foundations, what we're saying here is that everything has happened by accident. It's physical processes, physical things, physical atoms and molecules bumping and colliding into each other over millions and trillions of years, God knows how long, which have resulted in everything we see in the world today. This is absolutely crazy. It's madness. All of the order, all of the balance, everything we see within the universe, including ourselves as human beings, all of this is a result of an accident. That makes no sense from a rational, intuitive, common sense perspective. It just doesn't make sense in any way, shape or form. But to develop this, I go to the second point, which is, let's take our rational faculties as human beings. Atheists, theists alike, we all acknowledge that we have rational faculties, truth-bearing faculties. Faculties, when we engage them and we use them, they can lead us to truth. Otherwise, if we don't believe this, we shouldn't really hold any position because we can't even be sure of what we believe. Right? However, on atheism, the type of philosophical naturalism, you cannot account for your rational faculties, your truth-bearing faculties. Why? Well, there is no direct correlation between survival from an evolutionary perspective and truth. Now, Hamza's done a lot of research on this, and he's going to be publishing some of this in his revised edition of his book, The Divine Reality. Definitely check that out if you haven't already. And also, he's done a specialist series on this, and we'll have videos in a lot more detail on this particular topic. But what he shows is that, look, in academia, in the sphere of academia, what they're showing is that truth or survival is not contingent upon truth. True beliefs as well as false beliefs both can adequately result in survival. Therefore, we have no reason to assume that we've ended up with truth-bearing faculties. That's very interesting, right? He gives some many examples, and there's many examples we can share. I'll just share one brief one with you, just to sort of illustrate the point. Say there's a jungle man, as Hamza says, there's a jungle man, he's in the jungle, he's hunting, and he hears a rustling in the bush, right? Now, he concludes there is a lion, danger, run, hide, and he survives. Brilliant. But is it necessarily a true belief? Is it a rational belief? No. So here is an example where a false belief can adequately result in survival. And you can even argue that a false belief in some instances could be more beneficial from the perspective of survival. Why? Because it takes less processing, less thinking from that perspective. Imagine he sat there and he had to analyze the bush, wait for it to rustle again, determine whether it was the wind, see if he can see something else which may allow him to conclude it's danger. That type of processing will take a lot more time, which would mean, you know, the chances of survival diminish. And obviously you can go into a lot more detail, but the point being that if you purely base it on this type of understanding, this perspective of philosophical naturalism and peg our rational truth-bearing faculties on evolution, then you cannot account for them, you cannot justify them. At best, you'll have to be skeptical about your rational faculties. And if that's the case, what does that say about your views on atheism that you hold, or your lack of belief in God? It's self-defeating from that perspective. That's number 2. Number 3 quickly is morality. Now we've seen, guys, over and over again, atheists such as Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, and so on and so forth, attacking religion, making claims against religion. This is bad, this is evil, this is immoral. Even Richard Dawkins in his new book, Outgrowing God, which we have by the way, we have a full review of on this channel, make sure to go check it out. He spends, a lot of time in his book attacking what religions have to say, the Bible in particular has to say, and by extension the Quran, as far as narratives and stories and how they're immoral according to him. But the interesting thing is that if you adopt the type of atheism I'm talking about, you have no moral grounding. You have no moral anchor. You are in no position to challenge or make or pass moral judgments. Why? Because again, if it's all down to evolution, if we think of it from that perspective, then everything is evolving and our morals have too evolved. And it's not about truth or good or bad, but what's beneficial for survival. It's a big problem, right? So many atheists, who adopt the type of philosophical naturalism, they're quite consistent. They say, look, morality at best is subjective, that's it. But others try to fudge it like Dawkins, and the way he does it in his book is he sprinkles a bit of evolution, a bit of what's up in the air, what's been discussed in society, a bit of moral philosophy, yet at the end of it, he doesn't give any clear conclusion as to what his position is, and yet he feels he's privileged enough from his worldview to attack religion and what religion has to say. On what basis, I ask him? On what basis does he feel he can attack Islam and say this is bad or this is immoral? When he seems to suggest, no more than any other atheist, that if he's being honest, that it's all subjective. So you're in no position to attack anything or anyone else. So these are sort of three reasons, briefly, as I've summarized, that I believe atheism, just falls apart. And there's many other reasons. Just wanted to mention these three. And obviously, if you watch some of the other videos on this channel, we've elaborated a lot more on these specifics, on these points. That's it from me. Make sure, guys, let's make this interactive. Like I said, leave your comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about these particular points. If you're an atheist, I'd love to hear from you too. If you're a theist, I would love to hear your points too. Let's carry this discussion on in the comments below. And until next time, take care.